Containment, Episode 5, Like a Sheep Among Wolves. Really loved this episode. I thought it was actually really cool to see kind of just a complete breakdown of everything, it seemed. I mean, they have the food drop, and Lex is trying to tell Summers, like, this is not going to work. We need a bunch of time and everything. And they drop the food anyway, and we have, the gang come into play. They take all the food, and they're going to try to sell it back to people. We have, by the end, one of the cops, Meese, I believe his name was, apparently he was sent in by the chief of police to do something. I don't know what he meant by families and debt, and I would assume that means he's gonna like kill certain people or something. I just don't know what that means. But that really surprised me when they ended it that way. I was like, they'd have all this crazy stuff going on, and now there's like this weird mystery with the captain. And based on the promo, Leo, it seems like he finds out by the next episode, and or Lex finds out by the next episode, and he and Leo kind of team up. But that really shocked me at the end. I was very surprised by that. I was happy. It was a nice surprise because I'm like, I just assumed he was going to open up the sluice and try to get out, which didn't make sense because, of course, they have, when they have Lex and Jake in there, it seems like very contained and stuff. But obviously when Lex goes out that door, there's a bunch of guards and everything. So it's not like Meese could have been like, hey guys, I'm just, fell in, walking right out. That wouldn't have worked. But him being in there and he has like the phone and everything, I was really shocked by that. So I can't wait to see where that goes. But a lot of other stuff really went wrong as well. I thought we were losing two cops because they did the thing with Meese, but they had the cop in the beginning of the episode as well that went with Jake, who gets knocked down and he gets a cut. And so he ends up dying. They killed a couple of people that they kind of featured in this episode died, and it was the cop in the beginning who we find out was sick the whole time, which I completely forgot. Like, I just assumed he just didn't show up because he was sick. I didn't really think about the fact that the symptoms would already be so bad that he'd already be bleeding and stuff. I knew that was going to happen as soon as Jake found out. I was like, oh, well, he's going to turn around and it'll look horrible. But I was like, I guess it was early. I mean, they don't give time, so I guess it makes sense. That would be like hours. That was the drop happened, and that would take a long time to really set up. But they killed him off. They have the young girl at the beginning of the episode that's eating the food when they're doing the narration for people starving and stuff like that. And Jake tries to help her, and of course the little bit of blood starts to pour down. Like, crap, she's sick. And then she ends up, being dead by the end of the episode, and he has to actually burn her body. So they showed off a couple of characters, and they die, in different ways. Because of course the cop actually kills himself because he knew there was no cure. And it's kind of hidden Jake. I think this was a good episode for Jake having, like the whole thing, since he's had to kind of take over since Lex was like, hey, you're on point, you're on lead inside the cordon. This was the one, I think, that might really affect his character. He kind of rebounded a little when Katie kind of came at him towards the end of the episode, which she was kind of on his case, which made me a little mad. She's like, oh, did you have a bad day? And I'm like, she's trying to compare her time about finding out, who was truly infected first compared to him having, like, he just said, like, I had to burn this little girl's body. And she got on his case, like, you found out somebody died before they died. Like, the news lied. That's nothing compared to what he just went through. And so I was a little mad when that happened. But he got over it, probably because he likes her, which, admittedly, that does happen. You can, like, you don't think 100% straight, because he should have been like, she's getting on my case. I just burned the girl. But, he bounced back really fast. And was like, what can I do to help? So, we have him, and I feel like maybe, based on what happened, even though he kind of bounced back at the end with Katie, this could be one that really affects him throughout, like, the rest of the series, where it's like he lost that cop, and you saw him actually kill himself in front of him. He lost all the food for the people because everyone got robbed. He had to make a choice, and he chose not to have everybody get shot up. And then also, just trying to help that little girl, but basically knowing that she was going to die. So that's a bit of an effect on the guy, and I think it might, I feel like it should definitely play a part. I mean, of course he's been burning bodies left and right, but he never, like, saw someone, especially as a little kid. It always, obviously with kids it makes it different. So, it's never had this big of an impact, and then it happened twice where he actually lost someone that he knew, and that was, right in front of his face. So I feel like this should have an effect on his character in kind of upcoming episodes. He already didn't have much hope to begin with, like, I'm the wrong person and stuff. And, once again, by the end of the episode, even when he was talking with Lex, he once again seemed to kind of bounce back, and he's like, Lex is even saying, like, I like this attitude about kind of, going out and trying to figure out the truth and stuff like that. So it might not affect him too much, but I kind of hope it does, because this was different than, oh, I don't have a lot of faith in myself and stuff like that, or other cops don't have faith in me. This is like everything kind of just fell apart today. We lost a bunch of food for a ton of people. I saw, this little girl get sick, and of course she ends up dying, and then a fellow cop kills himself off, in this episode as well. So, just a lot of stuff I feel like hopefully will affect his character, and if not in a huge way, then at least some sort of impactful way within the next, couple episodes. I would hope the very next episode, because it just makes more sense with it being, more recent. But we have that going on. We have Jana's storyline where she actually goes out and everything. She encounters the gang for a quick second. They stop and the guy blows her a kiss. And then we have her actually with, I want to say the guy's name was Sam. And so he actually helps her out when she goes through the basement where I guess the tweakers are, because that's what they mentioned, that they're actually tweakers. So he helps her out. They get on the elevator, and so they have to go through arguing with the two guys who I completely hate. Like they get on my nerves so much. Like I don't like Leo because of some of the stuff he did, like the reporting, and he did something that could have killed a ton of people, and yet I hate the two of those guys so much more for just them being so stupid. Like them getting mad about being trapped in the sluice for the 48-hour thing, and the guy was like, we went out there to get your food, which when he pointed at Janet, my first thought was like, and this is like 2 episodes ago, but my first thought was, he's like, we went out to get your food, and her whole thing was like, none of us should leave, and he pointed directly to her as if she was like, we should all get food. She was the one person against it, and yet he pointed right to her, and I was like, ultimate defense. I said we shouldn't go anyway. But it just makes me hate them so much. And then she kind of threw the idea of the food in their face when it was like, when you guys were in the 48-hour thing, it's not like we got any food because you kind of turned into like little assholes and ate all of it or threw it. Like it was, 1872 or something, and it was a stage play you hated. So I just hate them a lot. Like they're in all their arguments every time they go against Jen. I'm like, I hate them so much. Like both of them, if they died, I just wouldn't care. I'd be like, whatever. More food for Jana and her friend, I wish I could remember her name. I like her. I know she's kind of in the middle because she was kind of flirting with the boss or whatever, but ultimately she sticks with Jen, and they're basically like sisters. So I was like, I'm totally fine with her, and she's more on Jana's side now anyway, and she's really stood up against them in this episode. And I was like, cool, because she's on the other side with both of them now instead of them both being in the sluice and all that stuff. So she got past the idea of not being able to sleep with the married guy or whatever. But she's, in the past couple episodes, she's kind of really stood with Jana. So totally fine with her, but I truly just hate both those guys. Like, just in general, I hate them both. I'm sure they'll do something in the next episode that makes me hate them more, but who knows? I feel like if anything crazy was going to happen, one of them would get, it probably wouldn't be Jana because she's one of the main people, but they might get her friend killed. I feel like that could happen if something goes crazy and they have to take off through the basement, or just in general, and they're throughout the city. That could be a case, but I don't know. I feel like if that happened, one of them would, or Sam, the new guy, they'd get one of the three of them killed and they'd end up surviving, and I'd just be like, I hate that. But I hate them both. Just wanted to throw that out there. But, she has to deal with that again, so they kind of work through it basically, like, alright, we'll do the test. Like, I'm trying to remember, I don't believe she gets in within this episode, but, basically going through it, and it's like, we kind of have to do the test, but they don't even want to bother doing the test to let anybody in. And, the guy mentions, like, oh, we don't have enough food to let anybody extra in and stuff like that. And I was just like, man, it just makes me hate them both. So I don't want to even bother going on a rant about that. I just don't like them. But it was cool getting to see the guy have a bigger part in this episode. So, of course, we'll get to see he and Jana kind of, I guess, get to know each other. Maybe in the next episode, and we'll see how long that lasts before the other two guys finally decide, we're so hungry, I guess we'll let you in. There's, acting like they're making the tough sacrifice or whatever. But, I'm excited to learn about this character. He knows a lot about building apps. So I feel like with them kind of adding him, kind of to that storyline, we'll get to see more of the, rest of the building. And maybe they'll do something crazy and try to clear out, the people in the basement. Maybe he'll do something really crazy and release, like, CO2 or something crazy, like, fire extinguisher type chemicals or stuff in case of emergencies. There's something crazy, but I feel like they might be adding a little bit with adding his character because he knows so much about the building. We might actually get to see more of it and see kind of new aspects of the building. But I'm excited for where they might take that. We still have the stuff with Teresa and Xander, her mom, being at the market and being trapped with this gang who now has a ton of the food. Apparently 70% because they talk about it when Lex is super pissed, rightfully, at the end. And Summers is like 30% of the people got their food. And it's like, great. So they have 70% of the food. Their plan is to sell it all back, which we know is not going to play out as much as they want it to because, of course, when Xander is with the last guy, he sneezes. And so odds are that wasn't just a sneeze because this is one of those things where outside of the young girl who had like hay fever, no one has sneezed or been sweating. Well, Jake's been sweating, but no one's been like sneezing or coughing and it's like, oh, it's nothing. It's always the virus. So I doubt it's going to be like, oh, he sneezed and it really was just he sneezed and that was it. I'm assuming he's going to be infected. And Xander's going to have to figure something out. Either he's going to, tell the rest of the gang, which who knows how that will play out, because either the guy's going to be smart enough, the leader is going to be smart enough to say, you know what, it's too risky to not trust this kid and you just stay away, at least for the 48 hours, and then no big deal if he was wrong, and try to, keep Xander alive, because there would be no reason to kill him. He'd just be, of course, the other guy would be mad he got, kicked out for 48 hours, but either that's going to happen, where the guy's going to be smart enough to say, you know what, too much of a risk to keep you around, just go away for 2 days, and then if you do come back, we'll know what happened. Or it could totally go against Xander, and they just flat out don't believe him, and they assume he's going to try to break them up. But based on who the character is, I feel like the leader wouldn't take the risk. Like, if Xander said, like, he sneezed, and I'm just saying it was a sneeze, it could have been just a sneeze, but it could be the virus. I feel like the gang leader would at least take it into consideration. Like, that is too much of a risk because nobody wants to die. And we saw, I don't want to say a softer side, but I guess it kind of was when he talked to Xander early on. Where it's like, I have kids myself, so, Teresa gets whatever she wants because she's having a baby. So we did see, like, a smarter, at least somewhat human side of his character, so maybe we'll see that. It wouldn't exactly be the human side, but it would at least be the smarter side of his character, where he wouldn't take such a big risk with him dying. It's like, well, if he dies, he's not going to get any of that money. So I feel like when Xander eventually tells him, which may or may not be the next episode, because sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. So we'll kind of see how all that plays out. But I don't know. It's real risky. It's really scary because it could go either way. I personally think that if Xander tells the guy, I'm curious if they'll do it where he tells him, in public, or if he tries to tell him by himself, and how that might play out. But either way, I think he should probably stay away from the guy, because I feel like the guy would instantly just try to pull a gun on him, or maybe on Teresa, or her mom. And we'll just have to see how that plays out. But hopefully the guy's smart enough not to take a risk, and that'll get the guy kicked out, which I believe would probably bring him back in some regard, just to kill Xander, just because he's mad. As if Xander's the reason he got sick or something, because that's how villains are in TV shows. So we'll see how that plays out, but I'm definitely looking forward to it, because that kind of spells the end. Either Xander's going to be like, hey, we need to escape. That's like the third option, is that he just tells Teresa and her mom, like, hey, we just need to leave and let them die off. Like, I know it's your shop and everything, but they're going to get sick and kill each other, so we should just abandon it and we got to go. And that would kind of explain why Teresa on day 13 was just out and about, because the whole series so far has been Teresa's at the market. So it would kind of explain that if they just took off, because there's so many people, and it's like, well, instead of warning them, let's just let them get sick and kill each other off, and then we just leave. And as much as it would suck to, get rid of the market, it's better than dying, So that could explain why she was kind of out there on day 13, rather than just being in the safety of the market like she has been the entire series, so far. But looking forward to that. We have also Katie in this episode, as I mentioned, kind of looking for answers. And they've been doing it before, where she's like, oh, well, the news said that the person who was infected died first, and then the scientists or whatever, the doctors died after. The doctor and her boyfriend died after. But she saw both their bodies before patient 0 died first. So when that first happened, and the doctor explained, like, people have different, like, reactions to the virus, they like can last longer and stuff like that. I just assumed he was telling the truth. Like, I really thought like, oh well, the guy who was infected, just didn't die first. Like, I really thought that might have been it because he had it before anyone else had it. So when it spread to them, it was like it didn't grow within their body. I guess in a weird sense, it's not like his body just created this virus brand new out of nowhere. But that's just what I thought. Like, if he truly was patient zero, maybe it would affect people more because it was the first time it infected a human body. So it wouldn't like completely wipe it out instantaneously. It would like kind of mutate within his body, and then it would be like way more dangerous to new bodies because it would already understand the components. Because it's basically how a virus works. When it mutates within one person, and then it's stronger when it reaches the next. So I thought I thought he was telling the truth. And so we have Katie going through, and really it's not that big of a deal to me. Like, obviously it's leading to something more interesting because when she was looking into it before, it was like, well, we already know that, now that she's kind of brought it up, it's like, okay, well, they lied. They said that, the guy died before the doctor and her boyfriend died. And it was like, okay, well, that's not really that big of a deal. But I didn't really connect that with, that's why they're doing the bioterrorism thing and stuff like that. And like I said, I believed him because I was thinking like, oh, it did mutate within him. And then it was stronger when it got to the other people. But, it also shows, I mean, she wasn't sick. They did the whole video thing, unless that was like, we'll find out that was like a complete lie or something. But they did it where she was like, oh, I talked to him and this happened and that happened. And then the pen thing, because he was sick and coughing and stuff beforehand. And the family did actually get sick. So he was sick. But it, seemed like it was before she got sick. And maybe they'll do it where it was, in reverse, where it really was her who was patient zero, or maybe, her boyfriend. And it did actually mutate. And that is why, maybe that guy got sicker first, but they actually died first because it was within them. But I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But there's definitely some weird things going on. It's gotten more interesting because before it was like, well, we found out in like the second episode that they lied about who died first. I think it was in the first episode. So I was like, she's looking for answers, and it's like, this isn't really leading to anything. It's like, well, one person died before the other. But I was so caught up in the mutation thing and the doctor not lying to her that it just kind of made sense to me because I don't really know science that well. I just assume like that kind of makes sense. I think I like I said, I'm pretty sure that is how a virus works, and it doesn't necessarily mean the person who is patient zero will die after. But I thought it kind of made sense that it would work that way. But it's leading to something interesting. So we have the true patient zero, which doesn't seem to be either the doctor or her boyfriend. So it seems like they don't actually know, which makes a lot of sense because that would kind of explain why so many other random people have been sick. It's someone else out there who truly was patient zero. Because obviously a lot of people were infected before they were even showing symptoms. But there's still like the big question of the fact that the guy was showing symptoms before they were. So like I said, if it is the mutation thing, then it is because either she or her boyfriend, one of them was patient zero. And it's like they were in such close proximity that it was kind of the same. It is almost like they shared the status of patient zero in a sense, and so they didn't get super sick really early. But like I said, that's why they died before the other guy did, even though he showed symptoms before they did. So could be the case, might not be the case, don't really know. A lot of science going on there and a lot of lies. So we're gonna get some answer, and they'll probably explain why or who the actual patient zero was and how it actually played out that way, and what was going on with the whole virus and why the doctor didn't show symptoms but the other guy did, and yet she and her husband died first, or boyfriend. I really can't remember if it was a boyfriend or husband, but they died first before that guy, and all this other stuff. So I am looking forward to that answer now, because beforehand it was like, well, she's just trying to figure out that they lied, and it was just obvious, like, well, yeah, they lied. But now that it just like, it finally got in my brain, like, oh, it's way bigger than this person died before these two people. It's everything that's been happening. The bioterrorism thing, which they mentioned before, like that was a lie and stuff, and they were kind of using that as a part of the news, but it didn't seem like that big of a deal to me. It was like, well, they lied about it, and that's it. But now that it's going along with, he didn't die first, and they died first, so maybe one of them was patient zero, or someone else they knew was patient zero that we haven't even seen yet. it kind of brings a lot of other questions together. Like, do they know who Patient Zero is already, or are they doing all this stuff because they still have no clue, who Patient Zero is? And how long have they known about the virus? Because one of the big things was Katie mentioned that Birdie had the rats before they even went into the hospital. So that was before the quarantine. So they knew something was going on, which, once again, I just assumed, like, well, yeah, they saw him beforehand because the doctor got sick. But, that wouldn't explain why they would instantly need rats. So they would have had to have known. And he could have easily said, like, oh, well, we were testing something else, but he clearly skirted around it, so it had to do with the virus. So it did add a new layer, which I'm excited for. So I am definitely looking forward to the answer now, because it brought a bunch of stuff together that apparently I was too stupid to connect. But I'm looking forward to the next episode. Of course, definitely want to know what you guys thought about this one, so please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts, your least favorite parts. And despite all the craziness, the biggest thing has to be what's going on with Mies and the captain. So I would love to know what you think the plan is for that. Like, what could possibly be the answer for doing that? Like, would they kill other families that have answers? Maybe it has something to do with Patient Zero. If they do really know the truth, that could be a thing. But I would love to know what you guys think his true mission is, and of course, what you guys thought about the episode in general. So please comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.